Last season started with Greg Seitz on his back foot, but an incredible transition in form left him with the lion's share of wins in the end. Thankfully, everything resets today and everyone has the same chance to prove themselves all over again. Let's see who start things on a high note as we get ready to watch round one of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Starting the season off at Monza is somewhat akin to NASCAR kicking things off at Daytona. It'll be wild and unpredictable, but it'll be fun along the way. Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well-known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years. DJ, it's the F3s at Monza. It's going to be wild, that's for sure.
It most certainly is, Joe, and for a sense of just how wild it will be, wait no further than when we get started. The first corner, as always is the case, no matter what car you put on this Temple of Speed, it is going to be absolute chaos. It is so hard to get more than one car in there at a time, and with a big field like we've got tonight, that's going to be a major, major danger zone. But in terms of running these Indy Pros, the name of the game at Monza here is going to be the draft. It is what is absolutely crucial. And as a result of that, I think the best area to really be focusing on when these overtakes are going to happen, watch the exit out of Variante Ascari. These drivers are going to have to set up the attack there, then make sure they keep a nice steady line through Parabolica and make the full charge into that first chicane. That is going to be the major area that people are going to have to watch out for. But as is always the case with the first couple of corners on this track, they're also going to have to keep things in line. There's not a lot of runoff on the sides of some of these chicanes, and if you get a toe wrong, get a little bit too much of those sausage curbs on the insides of the chicane, it can come out and bite you.
Well, before we get to anybody being bitten by that, let's talk about our sponsors, because today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SimMSA.net.
The PRL Indy Pro 2000 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Last season's championship wound up being a bit of a rout in the end. It might not look like it because Seitz got a few penalty points, but even with the penalty points, he still just was far and ahead of everyone else. So it really didn't matter much in the end. 7 wins out of 10 rounds. With Verity, not a single win going to him, but he was still in second place many times. Menino, a little ways back there in third. Also had Julio Palacio behind him in fourth, and then Alex Gallon in fifth. Really tight between third, fourth, and fifth by the end of the season. AM Championship, even tighter, DJ.
It was, and Tyler Gore really proving to be the model of consistency. If you remember, Gore wouldn't always have the best qualifying, but he would just survive his way through the field, and as a result was able to take a 2-point victory over Adam Wright, and Wright was only 4 points ahead of Sean Duhamel. Sean Duhamel 3 points ahead of a tie for fourth place between Barry Cochran and Brian Hotham, with Brett Accord a fair ways back. Joe, this was a fight all the way through the season and just absolutely incredible to watch.
And of course, we have the Teams Championship. And with that one, it also came down to the wire. Rust Racing 8 points ahead of SRT Esport Blue. Considering the points margins that they're usually dealing with in the Teams Championship, 8 is incredibly minuscule. 58 points back, in fact, should give you an idea right there to Blown Tranny Racing, with Parabola 84 behind, and then Lavoie a whopping 121, even though they finished 5th in the championship. We've got our today's events details. Why don't you run us through that, DJ?
Well, Joe, we are in the first round of this season's PRL Indy Pro 2000 Championship. It'll be the first of 10 rounds. Today at Monza, we're going to be out for 26 laps. That's a little bit of a change. We're used to seeing this be a timed race. They've decided to make it a lapped race this time out, so that'll be a nice little change for the drivers. You can deal with an open setup, so drivers are able to tweak and tune their cars to whatever's best going to suit them. Now, there are incident limits that the series does impose. That includes a drive-through at 11 incidents and a disqualification at 20. But the flip of that is that there are also some bonus points out there, one of which you can accrue for getting 3 incidents or less. The other way you can pick up some bonus points is by getting the pole or setting the fastest lap.
We're in the midst of qualifying right now, and Alessandro Day is leading it by a huge margin, a half a second ahead of David Holland, which, interestingly enough, this is what it was in practice as well. Alessandro, David, and Greg all 1, 2, 3 on the timing sheets. There you see Alessandro out there now. Of course, racing for the Delta Sport UK team as he works his way around and through towards the second Lesmo. This is going to be an interesting race, not just because of the slipstream and the number of cars, but also because, well, I guess also because of the slipstream, but because of what that does for the fuel. We'll have to watch out and see if anybody plays any strange games with that, and whether or not that changes the complexion of things, especially up with the front group. Now, I want to see if Greg Seitz can manage to challenge here as he comes through the Ascari chicane. The number 74, a current reigning champion, so he's probably going to want to defend that crown. And clearly, he's got some competition up against him this season. But DJ, why don't we hop on board and talk us through a lap of a champion and describe what it's like?
Well, here you can see Greg is in line right now. He's behind Ethan Lamp, which is great, so he's going to get the slipstream. Now, he's coming through Parabolica right now. Very important to maximize speed out of the corner. Now, we're onto the main straight, and we're about to start the flying lap. So here we go. And if you watch his hands, very, very minimal inputs onto the steering wheel. You don't want to scrub off any speed on these straights. Now he comes down here hard onto the brakes right about the 100-meter board, starts to sight the corner. You can take a good amount of that first chicane and don't take hardly any of the second. There's a big sausage curve there. You can see off to the right, not a lot of runoff, so you've got to be very, very precise. Now we head through the Curva Grande. Sight's keeping it nice and close here. You have to really toe a fine line in this corner between taking the fastest line through the corner and not scrubbing any speed. So here we go into the second chicane. Again, just after the 100-meter board, jump on the brakes. A lot of that first chicane, not a lot of the second. Almost no runoff. Okay, good. We're through there. Now we're ready to line up into Lesmo 1. Very fast corner. Down into third gear. Try to get on the power a little bit early. You've got a little more room to run off, but not as much. Now, down into third gear again for Lesmo 2. Bring it out. Little bit of counter steer there for Greg. That car gets very, very slippery coming out of that corner. Now we're on to another straightaway. Diving down the hill underneath the old banking. Starting to get the car lined up on the right side of the road. You want to brake right at the 100-meter board and bring it down into Ascari. Don't take a whole lot of curbing here anywhere. There's a lot of big sausage curbs that can upset you. Bring the car out wide. There he goes. Take as much as you can to maximize speed and then line up here for Parabolica. You want to scrub off as little speed as possible, but you've got to absolutely nail this apex. Onto the brakes right as you see that AstroTurf go away down into third gear. He's got to overcorrect a little bit. I think he put a little bit too much lock into that steering wheel than he would like, but then it's hard back onto the throttle again and back into the slipstream. And Joe, that is a lap of Monza.
A lap that'll get him a 1:45.4, which is about a tenth off of his quickest, but he's got another good toe here, actually, as he now rides up to the braking, but he doesn't go by Ethan Lamp, so he'll stay put, and there is just an absolute traffic jam in front of him as we watch Nguyen cross the line. That's not going to be quicker for him. In fact, it did not count. I think he may have been on an outlap that time through. Still looking to qualify about 5 or 6 cars that have not set a time yet. Not sure. I'm checking to see if we have everybody in the session, and it does look like we have everybody in there. Now, Mark McDonald with a very good lap last time by a 45.7. That jumps him up into 9th place. Let's see if Aaron Roos can do any better, and no, it appears not. So Roos stays down in 42nd with that number 26 car. The Canadian Sebastian Marier sitting in 23rd comes across the line, and it's going to be a 46.4. Does that take him up any spots? Yes, quite a few, up to 17th.
And that is very impressive, Joe, considering he really didn't have a toe there. As here we watch, looks like that lapse is not going to count there for Alex. Here comes Ethan Oren coming across the line. He's currently sat in 32nd with a 47.213. Is he going to be able to better that time? No, I think that is a result of not having that toe around this track.
So Crane Voos, who is sitting in 13th, does not improve. In fact, he was about 300ths off of his best time behind him, even though Owen Watts was getting a nice pull. Does not set his fastest time, but he swaps around as we switch over to Matthew Gunderson. Matthew is down in 40th, and looks like, actually, no, excuse me, he just jumped up with that last lap. That was his quickest. He'll go to 34th with a 47.3. We're down to the last 2 minutes, so the next couple cars that come across will be able to complete one more lap potentially, but now they will not, as we go under that 1:44 mark, which is our quickest lap so far.
Indeed. So this is where it becomes now or never for these drivers. Here comes Michael Broomhead out of that last corner. Car looked a little bit squiggly on the exit, so I'm not sure this is going to be an absolute flyer. And indeed, he's about a 10th off of his best time. He'll have one more to go here, but it's going to be hard to improve without that draft. Here comes Galatz coming across the line. That's a slow lap for him.
Andy Spicer's up next. He's another one of our drivers yet to put a time down. He's going to get one more shot after this one to get a clean lap in, which appears to be his struggle. But he finally does. It's a 47.7. That's good enough for 42nd place. It's honestly incredibly tight throughout the field. It's only 3 seconds from first to that 42nd position. That is just unbelievable.
It's absolutely remarkable, Joe, and it's not only a testament to what you can see at Monza, but the strength of the field. As Merrier comes across the line, he is going to be unable to improve on that. Looks like he's going to park it. He doesn't have the fuel or doesn't think he can do it. Here comes Kranfus. Good to see him back in the series. He's going to be unable to improve. I think he may have been setting himself up for this final lap. Menino not able to improve as well.
So Greg Seitz, again, not able to get any higher than that third spot, but then they don't need that ultimate track position at a slipstream track like this. More of them coming across with about 10 seconds left. Nguyen will get to start one more lap, and he does go faster that time through. He abandons after that, so he'll do no better than 17th, and we'll get McDonald taking the checkered flag. First driver to do so. He's in 9th. No, he's going to abandon it. He'll come down pit lane. So does Garland. But it looks like Duhamel will complete this lap. 31st, and no better than 31st.
Just barely missed it, a couple of hundredths of a second off there. Here comes Aaron Roofs off of the line. Roofs lining up out of Parabolica. At this point, you're just reaching your head up in the sim, willing your car to go faster, and it worked for Aaron Roofs. He's able to improve. That's going to bump him up the order to 41st.
3 positions gained. Andy Spicer up next, who is in 43rd. His first lap timed was the last one. Can his second one be even better? Yes, a 47.732, but it is only 6/100ths faster, and he's 1,000 shy of the next spot.
Oh, that's got to be so frustrating. We check here, Nicholas Collender. Looks like he's calling it a day as well. Here comes Fishman coming across the line. He is currently 10th, a new face to the series, so that is a great drive for him. He's going to see if he can improve, but he's going to call it a day and pop on into the pits.
Lamp also in, so is Ovando. J.R. Williams is next to the line, but looks like he is heading to the... No, he is not. He is going to complete it. And this is going to be a 46.5. That'll be 21st for him. Let's see, is Gunderson able to finish this lap? He's going to try it. And it is a 46.9, another improvement, and that is actually up to 27th, almost a full 10 positions higher. And that will be it for our qualifiers here today. Nobody else is able to set a time from here. A lot of drivers to go through, so let's try and get through the order. It'll be Alessandro Day who starts on the pole, with David Holland will be starting second. Greg Seitz will be third, with Owen Watts in the fourth position. Christophe Herbino jumps over from the LMP2 class over in the sports cars to start fifth here in the Indy Pros. Connor Wagner will be sixth, and Ethan Lamp in seventh. Stephen Verity, who finished second in the points, is starting eighth here today. That's going to require a little bit of effort from him. Mark McDonald will start ninth, and David Fishman in 10th.
Ron Clenard will be starting off in 11th, followed by another sports car crossover, Byron Daly in 12th. Daniel Kranfus will be in 13th, followed by Alex Forniero in 14th. Rafael Ovando will be 15th, followed by Dave Menino. Frank Nguyen behind him in 17th, followed by Sebastian Merrier, and then Raymond Day in 19th, with Caven Norris in 20th.
J.R. Williams will be P21, with Brett Thurman starting at 22nd. Then you get to Michael Broomhead in 23rd, and Hugo Glaz, our second place in the AM race today, will start 24th. Julio Palacio in 25th. Owen McLaughlin on the outside of that row, with Matthew Gunderson in 27th, followed by Adam Wright. Then it is Tyler Scarali in 29th, and Brett Barrett in 30th.
Nick Horvath will be lining up at 31st, followed by Sean Duhamel, Joey Haynes behind him, and Ethan Oring in 34th. Dave Peterson behind him in 35th, followed by Brett Accord and Tyler Gore in 37th. Christopher Richards will be 38th, followed by Gonzalo Munoz in 39th, and Lucio Vargas in 40th.
41st goes to Aaron Roofs, and Nick Abbott has 42nd. Then it's Andy Spicer in P43. Thomas Gardner, 44th for him, with Barry Cochran in 45th and Donald Olson in 46th. Takeshi Kita, we usually talk about how he likes to climb up the order. He's got a lot of drivers to pass today. He's 47th. Nick Collender will be 48th, and Guillaume Huard in 49th. The top 50 completed by Daniel Barnett. Only two more drivers with a time, James Doherty in 51st and David A. Bear in 52nd. Wolfgang Loader and Danny Duchesne, last two on our 54-car field. And yes, all 54 are in the session right now. This is going to be absolutely stunning coming down to the first chicane. Here's hoping it looks stunning coming out of the first chicane.
Well, we've got our fingers crossed up here, but Joe, I have to say, starting off on this lap, while yes, it's not great that guys like Seitz and Watts are starting in that back row, I kind of have to favor them a little bit. I think if they can time this start just right, they'll be able to pick up a big toe going into that first corner, and we could see a very, very aggressive move from both of them to try to get out front, should they choose to make it.
Well, we're now waiting for the pace car to duck away into the pits as Alessandro leads them through the Ascari chicane. Don't have a full pace lap here. Since this is the Indy Pro Series, they mimic how the Indy Pro cars do it, which is a rolling start, unlike the Formula 3 cars that you see running here that do it from a standing start. Hopefully maybe that'll just spread things apart enough at this track that the drivers won't have to worry as much on the braking down into the Rettifilo chicane. You can see some drivers already trying to warm the tires. It is a decently warm day at 95 Fahrenheit on the track surface, so shouldn't take too long to get them up to temperature. Up to the Parabolica hairpin, the final corner of the warm-up lap, and the Porsche pace car is going to pull away and let the number 20 have control. It's not long before they get going, though. There goes the Porsche pace car on its way in. Watching, Holland looks for the start, and there's the green flag. It was a good start for Alessandro. Not so good for Greg Seitz, who's already being swamped. Urbano to his right and Watts to his left. He starts to pick up the slipstream, though, and he's coming right back at it. He's going to get to the inside. Are we going to see 3 wide for the lead down in the first quarter? No. He breaks that a little bit early. Some blinking from Alessandro. Behind them, I'm watching to see if all the cars get through. Some are making contact. One is turned around and facing the wrong way. Another starts to spin. A few others are clogged up, but this could have been a whole lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. It looks like most everybody's staying at least 4 wheels on the track, which is something that we can be very, very thankful for. But now as they dive down into that second chicane, these leaders looking very, very composed. Urbano losing out a little bit there. I thought he had a good run at the start, but not really able to do much. But it is Owen Watts that is all up behind the gearbox of Greg Seitz for second.
I spoke a little too soon. Barrett came to a halt and caused a log jam behind him out of the chicane as well. So a few more cars did come to a complete stop. I'm not sure how much damage they accrued since the speeds were so slow on that start. Meanwhile, our leader is still Alessandro in the number 20 with Seitz giving chase in second, pulling David Holland along, who is right underneath that rear wing. Almost looked like he was bump drafting him for a second.
He certainly does. Oh, here he comes out of Variante Ascari, seeing what he can do. Now, this is exactly what I talked about. You can see Seitz weaving there a little bit, and the whole train of cars following him behind. You don't want to make the pass into the Parabolica. You want to try to go it. Ooh, Seitz running a little bit wide there. That could compromise him on the exit.
As they come around to that pitch straight now. Now, this could be critical for Alessandro. Remember, if he can break the toe and he's got better pace than everybody, then that will mean he won't have to fiddle around with all these cars doing this right here. Holland to the outside of Seitz, looking to outbrake him down into the Rettifilo chicane. He's going to be able to do that, and now Seitz trying to hold off Watts behind him. As Watts goes side by side, his teammate, Christoph Urbano, has a little bit of a peak, but it doesn't play out.
And now Watts is going to be on a little bit of a faster line. If he can catch the draft here, he may be able to do something, but he's got to worry about Urbano from the back. This could get very, very dangerous as they go down into the second chicane. What are they going to do? Looks like Watts thinks about pulling out, but everybody choosing discretion over valor there and keeping it in line. Greg Seitz, though, falling back.
That's Kranefuss, you just saw cut the chicane. He'll get an automatic slowdown penalty, and he'll have to give that time back. He falls to about 10th, and I think he's actually still giving it back. So, yeah, he's given up quite a bit of time, unfortunately, since it's early in the race. There you can see fighting the car as it gets loose on him.
Yeah, And that can really happen, Joe, if you try to trim out this car too much around Monza. He may have also picked up a little bit of floor damage, judging just how squirrely that car is. Big bumps, big curbs around this track. You really don't want to cut anything. It can mess you up. Yeah, look how close he was to those inside curbings.
Ooh, Seitz had a bad exit out of Ascari, and he's already getting swamped as both Watts and Herbino are looking to see if they can make the overtake, but as they come into Parabolica, they're going to be 2 by 2. Instead, it looks like Herbino's the one able to make the pass. Ethan Lamp getting a position out of all that, with Watts now falling in at the back of that group. He'll still get some help from his teammates. They start to stall out, however. They didn't get the tow from behind, like Seitz is now. And he's coming up to attack yet again as they look for the first chicane, try to hit their brake markers, and still nobody's giving up.
Very close there for Greg, and everybody keeps that together. I have no idea how they did that, but that means that Lamp is going to go up ahead of Greg Seitz. You can see him here doing exactly what we saw Herbino and Watts do on that last lap, trying to get a different line to try to go with a little bit. There's Lamp getting a little bit defensive and coming back into the racing line. Everybody's thinking about it, but ooh, who is that in the back? That's McDonald making a move.
Yeah, McDonald side by side with Wagner. The 51 has to give it up, and Mark takes P7 with that move. As this has been happening, Holland slipstreamed past the number 20, so Alessandro's no longer our leader. David, who started this thing in second, has gone up the one position he could.
And that's a good move for David. Not to discredit him, but it may also be a little bit of strategy from Alessandro there. We talked about it early on about the desire to save some fuel if you can. By tucking up behind in that draft, you're able to lift off the throttle down the straights. And Alessandro may be thinking to himself, you know, I've got the outright speed to be able to win this thing, but I want to be smart and think ahead.
They come down into the braking for the Parabolica one more time. Let's see if it swaps around again. Or is Alessandro thinking long term? Is he trying to save that fuel? As we hop on board with the Delta Sport driver. He's gaining. He's pulling him in. If he lifts, he wants to stay behind him. No, he does not lift. He pulls alongside. Instead, it is Holland who lifts and lets his rival through.
And behind him, it's getting spicy again. It looks like Greg Seitz does not like being put back off the podium. He is up to third. A little bit of a hip check there from Herbino to Ethan Lamp. That forced him off the line ever so slightly, but Lamp fighting back very hard.
This is not good news for Seitz because he's already nearly 2 seconds behind Holland. He's got to turn the afterburners on and try to catch up to their slipstream. Watching from the back of this train as we see what both Herbino and Seitz do through the Della Rosa chicane. No change coming out of there. They're all nice and smooth. Will it stay the same out of the Lesmos, however, now that we get the next long straight?
We'll have to see if anybody decides to have the guts to make a move into Ascari. And Joe, you brought up how Seitz has really got to turn on those afterburners. He really does. The draft effectiveness here, the range that you want to be in to be able to start taking effect of it, that's about a second. And Seitz is 2 seconds down right now from the leader, so he is not going to be picking up any advantage of the draft.
You mentioned we wondered how many cars are going to be able to get to the end or even finish the first lap. Well, we are on lap 4, about to start lap 5. We've lost 16 drivers already, but that is marginal considering we had 54 at the start. A little poke to the inside from Herbino coming down into Parabolica, but I don't think that was a serious attempt. I think they know the game now.
Yeah, I think they do too, and we've seen Christoph do that a number of times in the PRL sister series when he runs in the LMP2s, that little bit of head game that he'll like to play, just kind of poke his nose out, see what he can do. This, however, looks like a real overtaking move. Lamp and Watts tucking in behind as well, seeing if they can go ahead on Seitz. It looks like that's going to be position. Herbino, can Lamp take it? No, Lamp's going to fall back into line, so that'll be third, Seitz fourth, Lamp fifth, and Watts sixth.
It looks like Lamp and Watts made a connection there. So the 95 is in 5th spot. Hopefully didn't get damage on the rear from that little bit of a touch. Seitz is in front of him. And he's going to take a peek, but once again comes back in. Boy, these drivers are pretty feisty here.
They really are, Joe. We're not used to seeing this level of aggression from these guys, and I have to say, this U4K, Delta U4K Sport team that has come in, we're used to seeing them on the sports car side. They're bringing a whole new level of feistiness to this Indy Pro 2000 series, and it's awesome.
A bit of cloud cover now happening to cool the track down. His sights stays very hugged to the inside. Ethan Lamp has no place to go and will follow him down into Ascari. Maybe thinking better to try a little bit later. They exit off the corner. Herbino did make a slight bit of inroads on our top two. It was at 1.8 seconds. It was down to 1.6 for a moment. Not sure if he's going to be able to do much more beyond that. Mark McDonald, however, has a pair of Connor Wagner and Rod Clenard just behind him, and some side-by-side between the likes of Verity and Daly.
And this is especially interesting considering that Mark McDonald is a new addition to that Rust Racing team this year of Verity and Sights. So they're going to want to either try to get Verity and McDonald together to really start to work together, or do that. But we're watching right here, that's Wagner and Clenard, I believe, really going at it nose to tail. Behind them, that's Daly and Verity. Who's going to be able to hold it? Oh, almost a hip check.
They're going to come out side by side. It's now a drag race, and this is where it gets interesting. Wagner is on the inside, but he'll be on the outside when they get to the De La Roja chicane. So if McDonald holds tight, and let's see if he does. He does. He's going to have the advantage. Can he complete the pass this time? It's looking good so far. We got cars off at the side. Is that Sights?
That's Sights!
And another wreck right there with him. Verity, his teammate. Oh, no.
Oh, the worst possible sequence of corners for Rust Racing. We'll go back to the replay and check this out.
What happened? Oh, Sights spun on his own. And unfortunately, I'm not sure who that is that T-bones him, but they were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And then a completely separate incident for Verity.
I wonder, Joe, if we can go on board with Ethan Lamp, who was the one who I believe got contact with Greg Sights. I think there may have been a little bit of contact here as they came out of the second part of the chicane.
We're going to give it one more look here. See if we can suss this out, if your suspicion is correct. Oh, he was... Yep. Yeah, he was slow. Good call.
Yeah, it looks like Greg just, I think, was either being a little bit cautious there or maybe had a little bit of tire spin coming out of the corner and had to back off. But we've got a battle for the lead here.
Holland's still up in front of Alessandro, who does not make an attempt to get around him now. So I think this is where we see those games start being played for fuel. I see David Fishman into the pits. He drove it there. This is not a tow, so not sure what's going on there. As Clenard and McDonald, whoa, and a big spin of the wheels from Rod Clenard as he exits out of the Rettifilio chicane. Look at how much speed that cost him. He not only drops back from McDonald, but Wagner is easily going to be able to pass.
Exactly, Joe, and that's one of the things about this track. Yes, there are very few corners, but it can be surprisingly difficult on the tires if you're not careful about it. Very easy to spin those rear tires and overheat them in that way. The other part of it is that can really throw you off is the amount of trail braking you really need to do into the first part of the chicanes to get the cars fully rotated. If you don't do that exactly right, you can lock up the tires ever so slightly, and that will start to overheat them as well. And so I think that could be what we're seeing from Clenard as we ride on board now with Byron Daly looking up at this fight.
I commented just before that incident, the drivers seemed really frisky, and lo and behold, the prediction came true, and suddenly a few suffered, running their way out of Ascari down towards Parabolica, with McDonald leading Wagner and Clenard and Daly. No change into this corner, all of them looking for the right opportunity, although very wide on the entry for Clenard as he catches it. That's certainly not going to help him here on the exit.
No, it's not, but it looks like that Connor Wagner's got a heck of a run up front, tucking behind that 216 of Mark McDonald. He's going to jink out to the inside here, going down into that first chicane. Ooh, behind him, Daly and Clenard getting a little frisky as well, but Wagner going to be able to pull ahead. Clenard thinking about trying to go in as well, forcing McDonald very tight. Little bit of contact. Byron Daly says, thank you very much. I'll take those two positions.
Wow, great heads up by the 06. It's not done yet. Clenard stays side by side with him. As long as he's clean into the chicane, I think he should have this, but here comes McDonald. Oh, I was going to say, don't do a 3 wide here. That is not going to work. Thankfully, McDonald agreed in the end. They're going to stay side by side, and no, Clenard is going to take it as Daly can't complete the pass. McDonald is going to pull the over-under himself and be able to get back into 7th.
And Joe, that was a result of those high curbs, but oh, that was Clenard getting a little too far onto the grass. He's going to be able to hold his position for now. But as I was saying, Byron Daly through that second chicane just caught a little bit of the curbing on that first corner, and that threw the car out of balance. He had to lift out of the throttle, and that's what lost him. But here comes McDonald.
McDonald with Clenard to his inside. He breaks deep. Is that too deep? He gets it woed up. I don't know how, because that thing was flying into the corner, but that'll net him 6th place as Clenard falls back to 7th. We will look at our leaders on your screen as Holland still leads ahead of Alessandro. I think this is simply playing patient from the number 20. He has made no motions to try and attack. He's not even gained ground in the slipstream. He is clearly lifting.
Yeah, he has just found that sweet spot on his right foot where he can lift off ever so slightly and just hold on to it. But this right here, this is Raymond Day and the battle going on for P11 right now.
Heading into the first chicane, Day to the inside. Merriere on the outside, and Sebastian is the latest of the late breakers. That'll gift him 11th. In that train, you've also got J.R. Williams and Frank Nguyen.
Frank, one of the really exciting drivers to come out of last season, a very, very aggressive and fun driver to watch, holding back a little bit here, currently in 14th. We ride on board with him right now. Do not be surprised if he's also playing a little bit of a waiting game, letting these guys scrap up ahead of him and seeing what that can do for him.
Still ways to go. We're only on lap 9 out of this 26-lap event. The longer they sit behind those cars ahead. Whoa, who is that off? That was Thomas Garnon, so that was a lapped car. Let's take a look at our AM leader, though. Hugo Galaz, give him a little bit of love. Up to 15th spot, started in 24th. Now, there's been a little bit of attrition to help him there, but I don't think that is strictly attrition that has gained him this many spots. He's still working on one more position as Thomas Garnant, who, well, I take that back. Garnant, who we just mentioned, is a lap down, so he just wants to eventually get by him, but for now he's going to use that toe with the slipstream.
Well, that'll help him up. That's actually the next car in line for him is Frank Nguyen in that battle we were following earlier for 11th, Joe. And so he's not too far behind that. If he keeps up the pace, he may be able to do it.
As the battle for Day is getting very close, and he's pulling up on the outside. Looks like next to him, J.R. Williams boxed in, can't do anything, decides to give them some space as Raymond Day is deep into it, and he's going to overtake Sebastian, but they all come together, and it looks like this is where it pays off for Nguyen, as he just has to wait to get a clear track, and he gets all those spots.
He does indeed. We're going to jump back and take a look at the replay here at exactly what happened. You can see Day in front, catches a little bit too much of the curbing, doesn't get it, and just all coming together.
Yeah, Williams goes by, but that's also Hugo Galaz getting a spot in there too. So actually 2 positions, I think. Yeah, he just overtook Williams. So Galaz, in a quick succession, has managed to move himself up 3 or 4 spots. Raymond Day had too much damage from that thwack to the gearbox, and he's in pit lane. Oh, and Holland's gone. Holland has been gone for quite some time now. Now he finally comes back. Ooh, scary moment for the 18. Hopefully that solidifies. He has been blinking quite a bit, but that was the longest period I'd seen that car disappear.
Always a scary thing if you are driving in the car or you are a competitor. As we take a look now at the remnants of that battle we were following earlier. Oh, that's a big hit in the back. It looks like that may have been Adam Wright taken out.
Looks like Joey Haynes involved in that one, and also Sebastian Marie, who I think we saw involved in that incident into the first chicane not long ago. Sebastian going wide, and poor Joey just kind of found himself with a car spread eagle across the track.
Indeed, very, very rough there. That's why you've got to be careful at the exit of Ascari. You catch a little bit too much of that, it can catch it, but we're going to jump up right now to our leader.
Sorry, Holland went off. Holland just went off track, and I think the connection must have cost him there, because he just disappeared on my screen and then suddenly was off. He could have outbraked himself, and yeah, we're not going to be able to see on the replay either, unfortunately. This bumps up Christoph Herbeno to second and Connor Wagner up into third, but they are split by huge margins.
Absolutely mega, about 3 and 6 seconds back respectively, so a lot of time to be gained up into there. But Herbeno on his debut in this series doing a very, very clinical drive here today.
Now, McDonald continues to pick up spots and spots and spots as he is now into fifth, but he's got Rod Clenard just behind him. That's Rod poking his nose out in the inside. We're on board with him now, and he wheels it back over to the racing line to stick with Mark McDonald. Now, I saw David Fishman go in and out. I don't think that was quite a scheduled stop because it was about 11 seconds. I think he took a replaced front wing because of the incident he was involved in. Otherwise, he should be able to go to the end from here. So his fuel stop should be finished as closing in on the back of Clenard, or on the back of McDonald rather. Clenard then lifts and decides not to try and attack.
Yeah, he doesn't want to have to do any of that at this moment. I think he is in a bit of a fuel save strategy at this point, but this is a very good drive here for McDonald. He's been able to stay out of a lot of the mess in front of him. He's got a gap of about 1.3 seconds up the road to Owen Watts in fourth, so, and it looks like that's coming down ever so slightly.
The bad news is that we're hearing that Holland's area was hit with tornadoes recently, and unfortunately that may be what's playing havoc with his connection. Could be his electricity even potentially going out. Now, as we once again check in on Nguyen, he's still battling with Galaz and actually fighting him. This is our highest AM, Hugo Galaz. He falls back slightly, finding himself with a poor exit off of the De La Roja chicane. He doesn't technically have to fight with Nguyen for his AM championship cause, but if he does finish higher up, then overall championship-wise, it does help him.
It does indeed, and for Galaz, the other part of that he will be thinking about is just the more breathing room he has between himself and the second place finisher, second place AM driver right now, Aaron Roofs. That's just more cars that Roofs has to get between, so he wants to try to do that, but obviously moving ahead of any pro drivers will not help him in the AM driver championship, but very, very impressive run here from Galaz.
You know, I have to wonder, now that it's a straight fight essentially, Herbeno in second, 2.8 seconds behind Alessandro. Now, we've watched Christoph race over in those LMP2s, as I mentioned, and he won, I think, the most races of anybody last season, but didn't take the championship because of penalty points. So I kind of want to glance in on him every once in a while, see if his speed is actually quicker than Alessandro when there's nobody fighting either of them.
Well, I'm looking very briefly at their fastest lap times, and it looks like Alessandro is able to get about a 10th on him, but on that last lap, Christoph was faster, so it's seesawing ever so slightly, but we'll have to see what he can do here. The other part of that is going to come down into this is, as you said, Joe, dispatching traffic. That's going to be a huge part. If Alessandro gets held up and Christoph is able to pull up into the draft, that'll really help him. We're also just ticking past about halfway through this race, so pit stop strategy could also come into play as well.
I can report that Julio Palacio was in for, I think, a scheduled stop. And it looks like we had a change of position between Watts and Clenard as Watts moved into 5th. But this also involves McDonald. It was McDonald and Clenard before, but now we got a 3-car fight. Watts sandwiched between the pair of them in his number 14. They're all going to trundle down into the Parabolica hairpin. Let's see if anybody gets the shot. Ooh, very, very wide for McDonald's. That is fair game. That isn't considered off track or out of bounds. Ah, look at this. Watts and Clenard head into the pit lane almost in unison.
And those two are teammates, Joe, and I have to say it is a good strategy call from the both of them to do that, because it means when they exit the pits, they will have a drafting buddy and they will not lose any time tucked up behind anybody or running by themselves and not having the benefit of the draft. So both of them coming in there. You can see Watts taking tires, it looks like, on that car. And so now Clenard looks like he's out and away. Longer stop, though, for Watts. Clenard's was lightning fast.
I honestly, incredibly fast at 5.8 seconds. Considering usually we look at 6 to 7 seconds for tires on these cars and as well as fuel. I'd say that Clenard was maybe saving a little bit himself in order to make this second stint that much quicker and that pit stop that much tighter. He'll return in 10th. Now our highest pitter of anybody in the field who has stopped.
Indeed, and that disparity between the stops that will break up that strategy is now Takeshi Kita is in between those two drivers, so that's going to be a little bit of a bug in the ointment, but we'll have to see how it plays out as the rest of the leaders start thinking about pit stops.
I do believe they still got time before they need to come in, as it's usually... speak of the devil, though. Alessandro is in. And so is Herbino. Is Wagner going to join? Is this the end of the pit window? It might be. The 51 is in. The 216 is in. So is the 67. Yeah, it appears that if you have been out there, even if you've been saving fuel, you can't go any farther than lap 14.
Yeah, that's 1 through 7 all diving in. Make that 1 through 8 as Frank Nguyen heads in as well. Looks like Alessandra's going to be able to hold out there in the lead as they exit the pits. 5.2, 5.7, all of these leaders choosing not to take tires and taking very quick stops.
Now, critically, Herbino comes out with Huard between them. I wonder if that can be a bit of a stepping stone, if that's going to be enough of a slipstream to be able to cut that down to less than the 1.3 seconds. I mean, he already gained time in that pit stop exchange and could start feeling a bit of the effects on Alessandro.
He could. He's got to hope to get by him a little bit faster. He's able to get back to the proper racing line there, so that'll help Christoph out, gets the car back in. Didn't take tires, but they are going to be a little bit cooler than he would like, sitting stationary in the pits for that long. Probably coming up to temperature here about at the second Lesmo, so now everything is back and underway. You can see that pit stop comparison, Herbino a couple of tenths faster, and that was just enough to help him. The gap now equalizing at about 1.8.
So it looks like, other than James Doherty, who I expect will be coming in this time by, everybody has taken their stop. So here's how it shook out. Alessandro leads in the number 20 car with Christoph Herbino in second. Connor Wagner sits in third, but he's far, far back, 9.5 seconds. In fact, he's got to worry about Mark McDonald, who had a great pit stop. He's less than a second behind. Rod Clenard dropped off of Mark McDonald with those stops. He's still in fifth, but he's got Owen Watts about 4.7 seconds back. That's actually incredibly long. I think Watts had to get some repairs of his own. And then Ovando is in seventh with a nice battle with Byron Daly for that position.
And remember, Joe, when these two dove into the pits, they were nose to tail. They came out nose to tail in the exact same position, so it got to be a little bit frustrating for Byron Daly. But there you can see him taking a little bit of a wider line there through the mid part of Parabolica. almost diamonding off that corner, just trying to carry as much exit speed as he can, take a full advantage of the draft. Here he comes behind Ovando now. Look like he's pushing that hard. He may still be in a little bit of fuel conservation.
Oh, not like that. And he gets into him. That was a little bit of netcode, unfortunately. And that's why it seemed like they made contact. So Ovando gets spun around as Daly takes the shortcut. And Ovando actually just towed to the pits. I wonder if it hit his gearbox and messed him up.
Very well could have, and that's a real heartbreak. Both of those drivers doing a very good job in charging their way up the field quite nicely. Have to see what Daly. Doesn't look like he's got any damage to that front wing. Car seems like it's handling relatively decently at this point, so hopefully he'll be able to escape without damage.
I believe it's 10 to go this time by. And, Christoph actually fell off a little bit in that last lap. It's 2.2 seconds now. Not a good sign for the 92. Who do we have that's really made a big jump forward? Take a guess who's our mover of the race. I don't think I even need to count any of the others. He went from 47th to 13th. It's Takeshi Kita again.
That we just really need to sit down with Takeshi and work on his qualifying, because I'm pretty sure if he could put in a good qualifying lap, he'd be winning race after race at this point.
Well, the Manatee would imply that maybe he's not that quick. It's just the slow but steady that he's looking for, and certainly working out well currently for that number 30 car. This is just incredible stuff. Hopefully he can hold on to this, and let's see, how far away? Yeah, okay, I was going to say maybe a top 10 is in order, but no, he's about nearly 15 seconds behind 10th place right now, which is our leading AM driver of Hugo Galaz.
Yeah, and again, Galaz up 14th from his starting position, so putting in that kind of performance you have to have as a good AM driver. Behind him in the AM category, rounding out that podium, it's Lucio Vargas in 13th, and then Ethan Oring in 15th. Those are your top 3 AM drivers as they run right now.
Alessandro still holds that gap at about 2.3. Wonder if Herbino either had a mistake or caught some traffic or something that increased this gap. As we put the camera on board with the 92. Can just catch a little bit of our leader. Ooh, big correction, though, coming into Ascari.
Joe, that may be part of the problem. Why Herbino's dropping off a little bit if that car is just a little bit twitchy on these corners. What happens is you get into that position, you lift off the throttle quite naturally, and sadly that costs you lap time.
So right now it is a Florida driver versus a Benelux driver, with Connor Wagner hailing from Florida as well here on the podium. There's Connor, having started this race in 6th, up a few precious spots. He's being chased by McDonald, but it's not McDonald that you see immediately behind him. That's a lapped car. I believe that's Huard there in the 399.
It is indeed, and Mark McDonald currently about 1.9 seconds back from Wagner as of right now. So we ride on board with him here. He may be able to use some of the lap traffic to try to get his way forward, but it's going to be very difficult, even if he gets a good slingshot, to try to get the full effect of it.
I have to admit that McDonald is one I'm impressed with here, because he definitely had a lot of battles to contend with as he also laps Guillaume. And we've seen fighting that hard has been quite a danger this race. So many others have fallen victim to it, but Mark is kind of his scythe through it with grace and poise today.
He really has. He's been very, very smart about the way he chose his battles. He wasn't taking a lot of over-aggressive risks when he didn't need to. He'd go for the move when it was there, but not just sort of going for the crazy all-out last-minute maneuvers if there was a high chance that he would run into something.
He's a driver we haven't looked at, I don't think, yet much at all, other than maybe the start of the race, is the number 316 of Alex Forniero. He's chasing Byron Daly. He is absolutely within the slipstream, and this is for 7th position. We hop on board looking over his front suspension.
There you can see as they work their way out of Ascari right now, Fornero really just trying to keep up behind Daly. He will be aware, I am sure, of some of the incidents that Daly has had that is sure to be in his head a little bit, Daly's head that is. And so Fornero right here, what he wants to do is really just try to make Daly make another mistake. Poke his nose out going into corners, maybe not actually go for the overtake, but just make it look like he is and see if he can psych Daly out a little bit.
This would be a good opportunity for it if he gets right up behind him. He's starting to reel him in. He's got that draft, but he gives a big lift well before they get to the braking zone. So maybe Alex isn't really interested in trying to attack for the time being. That will allow Byron Daly to retain that 7th position. Trying to see how many drivers we have left still running, and it looks to be about 39 or 40, somewhere in there. They are so scattered, our retirees for the day. There's a good dozen or so. Some of the drivers who are still close together fighting include one of our drivers who didn't even put a qualifying time in, Danny Duchesne, up to 16th. He's got Andy Spicer with him, along with Wolfgang Loader. In fact, yeah, Loader and Duchesne were two of our drivers that did not qualify, and Spicer started from 43rd as he is going to manage to get by Duchesne with a pass down into the Parabolica.
He is. Thought for a second there that Duchesne was going to be able to fight back, but it looks like Spicer just able to carry a little bit more speed through there. Now Duchesne's going to try to tuck up behind, but I think that Spicer's just got the advantage of him right now.
They head up to the Redifilio chicane now on 7 laps to go. They're actually some of the last drivers on the lead lap, it appears. Yeah, looks like our leaders are getting ready to come around behind them. So Alessandro, in fact, just behind Loader, looks around the outside. Loader sees it. He's not going to fight it too hard and let the 20 by.
Yeah, so there he goes. Now he's going to take a look up at Duchesne, see what he can do there. Alessandro being very, very heads up, calling out on the radio, going, this is where I want to go, making sure these lap cars don't hold him up too much, and he is able to get by Duchesne. Now he sets his sights up the road towards Andy Spicer.
So out of 54 starters, currently only 16 are left on the lead lap. An incredible bit of pace from our top runners. Maybe 6 to go next time by here pretty soon. And our leaders have all spread themselves out by a wide margin. Honestly, our only good fight on the lead lap is between Daly and Fornero, who, as we mentioned, Alex seems more interested in just kind of waiting till later in the race to really attack.
Yeah, he looks like either he's just saving fuel or he doesn't want to send a dive bomb here, not wanting to risk what will be a very, very good points day for him. Not doing anything too crazy, and he's got about a 5-second gap behind him to Frank Nguyen in 9th, so he doesn't really have that much of a crazy impetus to get a move on here.
So they fly down towards Parabolica, spotting their brake markers and then slamming on the binders. Alex now setting up his exit to get that 6 to go reminder in his ear. Byron Daly just running his laps at this point. Not a whole lot he can do except try to focus forward. Doesn't have a whole lot of control on what's happening with that 316 behind him.
No, he does not, but what he's going to be really worried about, but here, maybe, nope, that's just a little think about it there from Alex trying to psych Daly out ever so slightly. But up ahead of them, that is Tyler Gore that they're going to have to start dealing with. So there's some lap traffic that's going to come into this. This may be what Fornero has been waiting for, just a little bit of lap traffic to hold up Byron Daly and see if that is the push forward that he'll need.
The good news is that's not a battle for position with Huard. They're on 2 different laps, and Guillaume knows it. He lets him through, sees the other drivers, knows he doesn't want to hold them up, and Daly gets a nice pass before they get into the Lesmos.
He does, but that's going to hold up Forniero ever so slightly. No real fault there from Huard as he just tried to get out of the way of Alex, but nowhere for Alex to go. Now Alex is going to tuck up behind, get a little bit of the draft, and see if he can use a little bit of that advantage. Doesn't look like it hurt him all that much. He'll be able to catch up a lot here coming into Ascari. Gore now ahead of Byron Daly. That might hold him up infinitesimally, and we'll see what they can do as they head towards Parabolica.
Daly still pulling off a Gore, getting that little bit of extra speed, and he's starting to gap Alex behind him. The 316 is a full half second behind. That's not enough to drop him, and do expect Forniero to suddenly draw him back together. They complete the next lap, and as they climb up to 150, 155 miles an hour. Now he's not pulling as quick as I thought he would. Interesting.
No, he's not, but big close up there into braking. It looks like Alex is just a little bit more confident on those brakes. A little bit of a bobble coming out of that chicane, but he keeps it all together. I do also want to point out that David Holland here is just able to stick right up behind him.
I mean, not too surprised. Poor Holland had to reconnect after losing his internet and returns with a clean car, but a bruised ego as he runs in 26. What was looking like a potential win just was not meant to be, according to the internet gods today.
No, and that can happen sometimes, but he is definitely one that I'm going to be keeping an eye on as we continue to progress through this season. They do get a drop week in the course of the 10 rounds that we run, so this may be David's if he's able to have some pretty stellar performances as we continue on.
Alessandro just crosses for the 4 to go marker now. Now, it's going to be tight on whether or not this will be a time-limited or lap-limited race, because they do still have that 45-minute limit to this thing, and it's right now, I can tell you, just over 5 minutes to go. 4 laps to go, and they're doing it at minute 46. This is going to be quite tight. It's like Owen Watts gets ahead of Rod Clenard, his teammate. That's going to put him into 5th. Maybe they're trying to see if they can catch up to McDonald's. 4.7 seconds up the road. They're going to get some help as they try to pass Wolfgang Loader. Question is, yeah, okay, it looks like Loader, despite giving them a tow, is aware enough to pull off to the side, brake, let them through, and have things continue. A little bit of smoke there, and I see some tire tracks. I wonder if we had an incident. Trying to figure out what happened there. Looks like that was Brett Accord, actually, who found himself turned around, just spun himself all on his own into the De La Rocha chicane, and he did get it going. So thankfully that 151 is back and running. We watch from the perspective of Clenard, currently 3/10 back from Watts.
Yeah, he's going to be trying to do something here, and it could be a little bit of fuel strategy, Joe. It could be a little bit of leapfrog, as we sort of like to say in the oval game, of these two just trying to sort of catch over each other and see what they can do.
Well, right now all they can do is hope that it's enough for something in these final 3 laps. They're just starting now. So DeTulio in the number 20 leads by 4.7 seconds and is looking quite handy with only 3 laps left, but also only 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, it could very well come down to the wire in terms of that timing, so we'll have to keep an eye on that as these guys continue to head their way around the circuit. But Tulio really and truly has done a great job today of not only being able to press his advantage over the guys behind him but really, really being absolutely economical where he needs to make the passes on lap traffic. You heard me mention it before, calling out to the other drivers, going, this is where I am, this is where I want to go, making it as easy as possible for everyone around him.
Speaking of passes, we might have another one as Forniero just got by Daly, and now Daly's fighting back as they come into the De La Rosa chicane. Byron's going to get it, leaves Forniero behind as Holland watches, helpless to just stay out of the fight and settle for his 25th spot. Let's take another look at this one. This started into the first corner, but you can see they're just coming out of the first chicane, and this is where Daly fights back.
Indeed, he gets a good draft there going through Curva Grande, pokes his nose to the inside of that second chicane. Now he's going to try to hold it late on the brakes, takes a good amount of that inside curve, gets it absolutely perfect out of the second. Oh, that is a textbook defense.
I think we will get all the laps in, all 26 laps in. We're 2 to go, and there was just under 2 minutes, which should be enough time for Alessandro to get himself up and around to complete the lap. So at this point, he is just cruising, hoping to hold on to it until the end. Looks like Orion and Spicer just swapped spots. This was for 16th.
Jump back here to take out the replay. You can see the two of them just side by side. Absolute drag race as they come down.
Let's stay with this replay because they just wrecked each other through the Curva Grande right after this. This is a bizarre incident. Not a place where you see incidents in this manner, actually. It's almost like they miscommunicated and they're going to make contact.
Oh, yeah, it just looked like there that didn't exactly guess into where it is.
And something happened with Clenard. I'm trying to find him on my screens. Did he
catch some debris?
No, he hit Daniel Barnett. Watch, he'll clip Barnett behind him. It's going to be this car on the left. Yeah, right here as he passes. Oh, because there was a car on the right that he was trying to avoid and just lost control with that little bit of contact. My goodness. As DeTulio now takes the white flag with a few seconds to spare and comes around. Christoph Herbeno, 5.3 seconds back. Wagner is in third, 9 seconds back from him. What a run this has been for our pole sitter. But incredibly, the other two that started on the podium are nowhere to be seen. In fact, I want to say both have DNF'd this race. Let me try and check here to see if either are still running. No, Holland is still out there. We did report on that. So where is our third place starter? That is Greg Seitz. He is back out running, but both of them multiple laps down.
And kudos to the both of them for just continuing on. Greg Seitz knowing more than anybody after the rough start to the season he had last year that just any sort of points you can pick up, absolutely worth it. But today is not Greg Seitz's day. That belongs to our first place driver, Alessandro DeTulio, as he makes his way under the old Monza banking and through the Variante Ascari for one last time.
Yeah, I think the lessons of last season have taught us that do not count Greg Seitz out of this championship just because of a poor start to it. As off of Ascari, Alessandro DeTulio runs under the bridge, down towards the brake markers at Parabolica. And with his handy gap behind, all he has to do is putter across the line. The number 20 will take victory here in Italy for the opening round of the Indy Pro 2000 series of the PRL. Christoph Herbeno will get second, and Connor Wagner crosses for third.
Good runs from everybody there as we watch Wagner crossing over the line. Behind him, Mark McDonald, the lone finisher from Rust Racing, our reigning teams champions. So that is going to throw a spanner into the works in the teams championship as well early on.
Hugo Galaz, our what appears to be our winner in the AM race today is actually, no, he's not fighting for position. That's Dave Menino, so that's a different lap. But he's going to go from 24th to 9th here. And then I want to go to the car behind him right after that, as Galaz takes a well-earned victory here today in that AM race. Behind him, Takeshi Kita, up from 47th on the grid, did actually break the top 10, up 37 positions. That is a hard charger I've not seen the likes of in a long, long time.
Absolutely mega run from Takeshi. That is just how it is done.
So that's the last of our drivers now trundling across. We're going to let them finish things up as we go to break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome to Monza. We just watched the opening round of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series, and the reason that I'm chuckling is because we had 54 starters in this race. It was incredible, but mostly incredible to watch Alessandro Di Tullio, who started from the pole, had to fend off a few hard chargers, and then wound up taking the victory by a handy margin. Christoph Urbano jumps over from sports cars to open wheelers to show he's still just as quick and takes second place. Connor Wagner was third, with Mark McDonald going from 9th to 4th. Then Owen Watts took a P5, followed by Byron Daly in the 6th spot. Alex Forniero in P7 was followed by Frank Nguyen going from 17th to 8th. And Hugo Galaz, being our highest finisher in the AM race today, took 9th after starting 24th. And then the hard charger of everything, as we mentioned before we left, was Takeshi Kita, going from 47th to 10th.
Julio Palacio was able to come home in 11th. J.R. Williams had a little bit of a scuffle early in the race, but was able to still finish on the lead lap in 12th. Aaron Roofs came home 13th, followed by Lucio Vargas. That rounds out your AM podium there. Danny Duchesne was in 15th, followed by Wolfgang Loader in 16th. James Doherty in 17th, followed by Guillaume Hiard in 18th. Kevin Norris was 19th, followed by Rod Clenard, who was running up in that top group early on.
Andy Spicer finished 21st with Nick Horvath in 22nd and Daniel Barnett, a late race wreck, in 23rd. Ethan Oring was 24th and Holland wound up 3 laps down in 25th because of an internet connection issue. Raymond Day was 26th and Thurman was 27th. A few of these were actually DNFs, but we had finishers behind them. Menino 28th, Adam Wright 29th, and Scarali in 30th.
Tyler Gore was able to come over in 31st, followed by Brett Accord and Christopher Richards. Thomas Gennard was 34th, followed by Sebastian Merrier. Daniel Kranfus finished behind him, followed by Greg Seitz, who was an early leader in this race, but suffering some damage, but still able to complete it. Brett Barrett behind him was 38th, followed by Owen McLaughlin and Barry Cochran.
Behind them, Joey Haynes was 41st, and then last driver to see the checkered flag was David Hebert. Everybody behind there, all down to 54th spot, was a DNF today, sadly. We kind of figured that we'd have some attrition with that big of a field, but a man that didn't fall victim to that was Alessandro Di Tullio. Alex, it was a phenomenal job out there. It looked like for a brief while you were content to just hang back. Was there some fuel saving happening?
Yeah, I was trying to not be too tight on fuel, so I was letting go a little. But overall, it was a really great race, starting with David at the beginning. And then some network issues caused him to fall back. And then it was some great pressure also from Christoph. And yeah, to conclude the win, I'm very happy.
I don't know how much you were paying attention to last season. We saw sort of a similar thing from our current champion, Greg Seitz, where he had a bad start to the season, and then he came back and just wiped everyone in the last few rounds. Does that give you any concern that he's going to come back even harder in the remaining rounds after this?
I mean, he's definitely a contender. He's very quick, and he has the experience for it. So I think he's one of the main ones I'm going to be watching.
I think that's understandable and probably wise. Well, looking forward then, we head off to our first oval of the season with Iowa. How do you fare on the circle tracks?
I don't really do much of those, but I mean, it's going to be a new experience and something new to start testing and start practicing. So I'm looking forward to it.
We're looking forward to talking to you more throughout the season. Clearly, you are a quick one. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Alessandro Di Tullio, who took the win, and in third, it was Connor Wagner, as DJ has caught up with him.
Well, Connor, as always seems to be the case at Monza, it was a bit of a chaotic race, but you were able to steer clear through most of it. Talk me through that one.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy race. A lot of different stuff going on. Fortunately, at the beginning, I kind of just got separated from the lead pack, and then I was battling it out with Mark and a few other drivers, and just kind of got sort of stuck in no man's land after 7 or 8 laps. So I just tried to run consistent lap times and make sure I didn't make any large mistakes going through traffic or anything like that. So it was good fun.
It certainly was good fun to watch it from the booth. I want to talk to you a little bit about fuel strategy. You were able, when you came out of the pits, you were in a battle with Mark kind of going into it ever so slightly and then just kind of had an advantage. How much were you really thinking about your right foot and trying to lift off, or did it just all sort of work out the right way?
So that was something I was thinking about before the race. I calculated just so that I could push the entire time. So I didn't actually have to do any fuel saving. I had about I think almost a full lap extra of fuel. So it was just something I did not want to have to worry about. With how quickly these cars fill up, it would have maybe made a couple of tenths different in the pit stop. So I just went for it.
Well, clearly it worked for you, my man. So I have to ask you, looking at the whole of the championship here, obviously a good result for you today, but another good one for the team. You guys were really, really strong. Are you focusing on either championship, or do you think both are open for the taking?
I'm aware of kind of where I stand in the team, so there's some really strong drivers. So my goal is really just help with setup work and bring home some consistent points. So if I can do that every week and help the team build some strong setups to be competitive like this week, I'll be really happy with how the season goes. And if I can get a few more podiums, I'll be very happy.
Well, we will certainly be watching the entire way. Connor, congratulations again. And anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go tonight?
I'd first off just like to thank Delta Sport for UK and our sponsors, so Move Up Transportation Solutions, Freem USA Race Factory, Unified for Kids, Get Stuck, and Driven Texas. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Connor. That was your third place finisher today, Connor Wagner. And now Joe Peak is caught up with our fourth place finisher, Mark McDonald.
Indeed, Mark, that was an impressive drive. We commented that you were in and around a lot of those aggressive drivers who were making some interesting moves, but you seem to just kind of exist among it and never really fall victim to it. What's the trick?
Yeah, I'm like a shadow. I move in and out. I'm like an assassin. You never see me. I don't know. I just routinely find that I'm near one of those people, and then I move left when they move right, I guess.
Well, I guess whatever works in the end. It did get you up to fourth. I mean, knowing how many drivers there were lining up on the grid, did you kind of expect attrition to help you out if you just stayed cool?
Yeah, I mean, amongst the drivers, this is a known just crash fest, especially, with 50 drivers and first race of the season. We knew that it was going to be a really big attrition race. Actually, I thought the first corner was fine, but then obviously, basically the entire team got taken out in the same corner on the same lap in multiple different incidents, which is, kind of what you expect here.
Yeah, sometimes those days just happen in racing. You kind of have to chalk them up. This is a good start, though, a healthy dose of points as you move off to Iowa. Do you think you can get your oval skills together enough to repeat it and maybe move one step up onto the podium?
Yeah, I mean, I've been running ovals like pretty consistently in testing, trying to get ready for the season. So I'm feeling pretty confident. And we've got a little bit of a secret weapon in our team, and Dan Cranefoos, who has a NASCAR heritage. So I'm looking forward to working on setups with him and seeing what we can bring to these competitors who seem to nip away a little bit in this one, but we'll get them back.
So behind the scenes, obviously, Mark's team making sure and preparing and going to pull a little bit of an onslaught on everybody. But that was our fourth place finisher, Mark McDonald's. And we want to thank a few people before we take off. Of course, starting with the Simulation Motorsports Affinity. That is SIMMSA, that can be found at SIMMSA.net. And to our longtime sponsor, NinjaTrader, who can be found at NinjaTrader.com. And then finally, for all of your sim rig needs, the Butt Kicker products can be a big help to you if you head to thebuttkicker.com. Thanks go to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Jula Lawn, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work, including tomorrow, her new album coming out. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Check out our social media, which you can see there at the bottom of the screen, along with our merchandise store, which is at gsrc.storenv.com. We always keep a link in the description below, so it's nice and easy to find. The next race, as we mentioned, will be at Iowa Thursday, April 1st. No, that's not a joke. We're taking the Indy Pros off to an oval, and that'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.